In giving a performance that could only be described as forking terrible, Indiana proves that winning records don't mean shit, and MSU has been retroactively awarded the old brass spittoon. You're listening to Can't Read, Can't Write. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Can't Read, Can't Write, the podcast that proves Spartans can talk. I'm Mike Jones, joined as always by the dude married to a Forkin alumna, Kevin Greck, and the guy with the sensitive mic, Alex Plum. Am I the sensitive mic? How are you guys doing?
You were the sensitive mic.
Yes, he is definitely the sensitive mic.
Listen, I'm not going to be judged. Listeners of the pod don't often get to participate on the audio side when I get out of my chair and go shuffling around my house like a full Neanderthal. And that's really to everyone else's loss.
And that's happening because
Biden has more lift to his legs than you do.
That's true. That's true. What's the footwear over there in the house, keeping ourselves warm?
Got my old Minnetonkas on. We keep the house here at a balmy 63, and nights like tonight, it feels a lot like 58. So
it's just that Detroit draft going right through the house.
Cool wind blowing right on.
I like the pronunciation there of Minnetonka.
Minnetonka. Listen, it's a
if
flat
people
O.
are confused about where you're from, they're not anymore.
Let that remove all doubt.
Well, fuck.
Play a Minnesotan mom.
Hey, kids.
How about them Minnetonkas, yeah?
But I know Minnetonkas. Put them on for your cold feet there.
What you drinking over there, Michael Jones?
Oh, you don't.
Of course,
look
we've
happy.
been gifted, or
gifted
I don't know,
is the word.
Gifted. It's number 35 from
35.
Mike Jones.
Can't even say it.
It
smells bad.
That's not my favorite of all time.
Ooh, it smells like
Anyway,
it's giving cough syrup as far as I'm concerned.
like a children's sugary snack.
Yes, that's the vibe.
Anyway,
man.
we want to thank everyone for listening.
And we want to thank Mike Jones for number 35 in particular.
Ooh, I'm going to text him. That is delicious.
Yeah, it's sort of like maple syrup meets lemon lime. I don't know.
It's maple leaf for sure, whatever it is.
But there's a tang to it. Anyway, if you enjoy this talk so far, get ready and buckle up. So share this pod with Spartans in your life. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. And of course, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_pod. You can check us out on Blue Sky at SpartanPod. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast, do us a favor. It really would mean a lot. Just head over to YouTube, click the subscribe button on the YouTube channel, give a comment, give a like, and then never come back again if you don't want to. You probably won't after seeing our faces, but the subscribe counts for something. All right, Plum, can you give folks a rundown of what we are covering this week and the general structure of a Can't Read, Can't Write?
Well, I would be pleased to. Folks who are new to the pod will quickly learn that this podcast always begins behind the green wall, and there, football always leads. No exception this week. We may not be playing on the gridiron, but we've got teenage boys to talk about, a favorite pastime of ours here at Can't Read, Can't Write. We'll head over to men's basketball, where we have a couple of exciting wins to talk about, gymnastics, women's b-ball, and, of course, our volleyball team, where we've got a little update we want to share. We'll head off Grand River to talk about sports in general and the things that may be relevant to our listening audience before previewing what games are ahead and then taking your Twitter questions. And there aren't as many this week as there have been in the past, which, depending on how verbose we get, isn't always the worst thing in the world.
Not with as many, I think probably 20-year-old boys, Air Plum, to talk about this week.
I see.
And in a couple of years, they'll be like 28-year-old boys after they get to do like 4 JUCO stints before they head on over.
Yeah, we're going to chat about that off Grand River. So let's head behind the green wall and start with our new additions to the football team. These are in no particular order, but first up is Malcolm Bell, a defensive back from UConn. 6'2", you like that in a DB. 185, just finished up his redshirt junior season at UConn. Last year, he played 9 games with 26 tackles and 3 pass deflections.
So that's 1 year of eligibility. Senior year coming in.
Need a body. Need a body, got a body. So welcome, Malcolm. Malcolm. Next up is Matt Glubin, offensive guard from Wake Forest. He's all ACC honorable mention. He has better Pro Football Focus grades than all of our interior linemen from this past year. Excellent run blocker, gave up 1 sack. I don't know. I think this is one that you're pleased with. As a pickup.
I'll take any kind of conference honorable mention, although I know we did get some packs, but the ACC will continue to exist in a way that the pack didn't. So I assume that means that it's more serious. I think there's 2 years of eligibility for Matt as well, but I could be mistaken on that.
Yeah, and I feel like I saw where he was ranked in the portal, and it was a good get. Next up, Najee Burt, a cornerback out of Eastern Illinois, 5'11", 185, started all of last year, tallying 64 tackles, 5 pass breakups, 3 picks, and a forced fumble. Eastern Illinois is an FCS school, so big step up, but I think we can say the frame is the right size, and I don't care what level. That's a lot of tackles for a cornerback.
And yeah, I mean, we just need a defensive secondary. So like beggars cannot be choosers at this point. But yeah, it does seem like a bit of a jump to go from that level of competition to the Big Ten. But we'll see how it goes.
In fairness, Luke Newman came here this past year out of FCS Holy Cross, came up to MSU and won honorable mention All Big Ten as an offensive guard. So, but again, bodies. we saw this past year, need bodies. Next up, Grady Kelly, defensive tackle from Florida State by way of Colorado State. He was super productive at Colorado State. Last year was rotational at Florida State. I think they might have a couple dudes who are probably getting drafted this year that were playing in front of him. Last year had 19 tackles, 2.5 for a loss, 1 pass breakup, and a sack. He's 6'2", 295. At Colorado State, he was freshman All-American. And according to On3, he's the number 28 defensive lineman in the portal. Yeah, I don't think defensive tackle is necessarily the place where I was like, need bodies, but you'll take it, right? With Maverick Hansen and Dowse leaving, you'll take it.
Yep.
All right. Then Caleb Carter, offensive lineman from Western Carolina, 6'3", 310. Had offers from Arizona, San Diego State University, South Florida, and Wake Forest were probably the most notable names. Again, bodies. I think this is the theme here, particularly that size on the interior part. Like, I think it is worth remembering for those who have forgotten, Brandon Baldwin, Luke Newman, and Tanner Miller, who were for most of the year, our interior 3, are all gone now. So need people to play, and people for when they get hurt. All right, we've got 3 more. Elijah Toliver, running back from Sac State, all Big Sky honorable mention, 2,000 yards in 3 years with 950 yards on the ground last year and 9 TDs, also a kick returner. I think this one's maybe worth pausing on for a second because this is, again, a big step up, but 1,000 yards plays, I don't know, and it's a place where we have 2 commits from the class of 2025 and then 2 commits from the class of 2024 as our running back room.
And he returned kicks, which is something that I don't believe anyone still on the team has any experience doing. So that's worth something as well. We also have Josh Nin, cornerback from Texas State, 2-year starter, who actually began his career at Oklahoma. So he sort of like did a little bounce down, doing a little bounce back up. And he had 49 tackles and 13 pass breakups as a starter. And then good luck, Mike Jones. Did you look at the pronunciation guide on our edge rusher here?
No, so this one just came in. I believe he's friends with Aiden West for some reason. New Spartan for the class of 2025, Aiden West. Plum, you've spent some time on an island.
Yeah.
You give this one a shot.
Analu?
Yeah, I would say Anelu Lafaele.
Anelu,
Lafaele, probably.
Great.
Lafaele.
Love it.
Yeah.
He just finished his first year at Wisconsin where he redshirted. He's last year he was a 3-star recruit, 4-star on 24/7. Number 41 edge rusher, number 27 on 24/7, that is. And then number 3 recruit in Hawaii and 601 nationally in the composite. Out of high school, he had some. We like to do the offer sheet, right? So Wisconsin, Hawaii, Arizona State, Arizona, BYU, Colorado, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon State, Tennessee, Utah, Vanderbilt, Washington, not Oregon. Still, that's not a shabby list, right?
It's a great list.
Peer group. That's a peer group for you right there. So overall, bodies coming back, filling in the pieces of the team. I don't want to speculate. Like, we should have learned our lesson by now. No. Which ones of these guys are going to hit, which ones aren't. But it's a little gnarly on campus right now. We're having a bit of a cold snap, but we're getting Hawaiian transfers coming in. So the staff, I think, deserves some credit for this. And as we'll talk about when we get into basketball, maybe we should all be learning our lesson about up transfers because Long Beach State backups are contributing now significantly to our ranked basketball program. So you mentioned up is down, left is right. We should maybe just not look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah,
what's that,
100%
Jonesy?
right. Yep.
Well, you mentioned the last bit of football news is you mentioned the weather is gnarly. I assume that means it's snowing, and that would be apropos because Darius Snow has announced that he is coming back for one final season.
There it is.
Look at you. Look what you did.
Yeah. I got moments. So let's chat about that basketball team. 2 games played on, what was it, Tuesday at LCA in your backyard, Plum, against, I think, everyone's second favorite coach, Greg Campy.
100%.
And won handedly. 77-58 in a game that saw action from reserves. I don't know. It's hard taking anything away from Greg Campy games for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that goddamn zone that he plays. Like, I don't know. The first half, I think it was 31-30. Does that sound right?
Yes, 31-30 at the half with DQ Cole hitting a jump shot to kind of end the half, which that kid was just draining them from all over the place. So I guess ultimately on the game, 5 for 12, but it seemed like in that first half, he just couldn't miss. It was just toss it up over the back and it would drop in. So it was a little tight, I think. A little tighter than anyone would want at the half, but I mean, this game was in hand solidly, like even just 7-8 minutes into the second half. I think we got up by 10, and then it was off to the races from there. To the point where ultimately Nick Sanders gets in the mix. All right, being down in Detroit, good for the fam.
You mentioned DQ Cole. I think this is something that's going to maybe play out as we continue to chat about this team, but it was interesting to me. Apparently at halftime, Jeremy Fears said, "I want Cole." And I don't know that Cole scored another point in the game. He might have gotten a 2 in there somewhere, but love that kind of leadership in a game that Fears was, frankly, not his best game. Only 4 points, 4 assists, 3 boards, which isn't bad in a block, but not his best. This was a monster game from Jackson Kohler.
Double.
Double. And I would say Akins, I don't know that I recall him putting up 17, but I think that's increasingly kind of what I'm noticing about Jaden Akins is that we're actually starting to see fairly consistent production out of him in the like 10 plus points a game.
Yep. But which is where we need him to be.
Right, but it's all quiet. Like I don't ever feel like he's taken over a game, and I don't have a problem with that. At least,
need to know your role, fill your role. I know others have said this already, and I'm not going to take any credit for being inventive on this one, but I do just want to celebrate the performance by any M. Christie in a game involving Michigan State, where many 3-point shots are successfully attempted and completed. That's good. Even if that M. Christie isn't on our team, I still want to support him because the one shot we had at another M. Christie, of course, went poorly. And I believe he is a heroin addict living somewhere on Skid Row these days. Didn't work out in LA, unfortunately, for that young man, but hoping he gets clean soon for his family's sake.
Yeah, for his family's sake. Brings less dishonor upon his family out there in LA.
Truly. Yep.
The biggest story from this game though was Booker. Career high 18 points, 6 boards, which you like. I think 18 points is great. Never going to look down at that. But some of the motor related stuff, this was a really great game out of Booker. And you talk about what changed in the second half. I think it was Booker who came in and essentially put that distance into place for Michigan State. Really just a fantastic outing for Book, and hopefully I believe that was a second great game in a row. I know there's a bit of a gap there, but that was a good, it's not going to be a straight line for Booker, and as we will talk about in the next game,
and I do want to call out, continues to play at the rim. So is in the right place at the right time for offensive rebounds and putbacks. Had a couple dunks in this game. Had another shot at the rim. So that means he's in the mix. That means he's contributing. That means he's using that 7-foot frame that he has to contribute meaningfully to the basketball team. And you can't take that for granted. He, to kick the season off, had 1 dunk in the first 6 games. So that's not acceptable. But since then, over the last 6 games, he's had multiple attempts at the rim. So the word is getting through to him. He's adjusting his game. He's contributing more. And you could tell like the body language was there for him too. I don't want to like be the like British TV tabloids, but like the body language is there. He's engaged. He's running up and down the court. He's the first one, down the floor on the fast break. So gotta give him credit where it's due in this game.
And I think there's a couple other interesting things now because I'm looking here. 19 for 23 from the free throw line. I know that's unacceptable to Alex Plum, but by any other measuring stick, Michigan State now is consistently the volume of free throws that they're able to produce game in, game out. And it's worth pointing out that several of these games where they're generating that many attempts at the line, there aren't garbage time free throws. Mm-hmm. They've won by a margin. There's no fouling to catch up. Mm-hmm. And so initially we saw Frankie Fiddler putting up really, shouldering the cause of getting to the free throw line. At this point in time, it's baked on the entire team. Fiddler's been, relatively speaking, he had a much better game that we're going to talk about here in a second, but like has been relatively quiet over the last 4 or 5 games. And so it's I think that is incredibly meaningful that this team shooting at north of 80% as a team is now going to be able to count on these points game in and game out. And so when people start talking about how in the Big Ten play, like everyone's going to slow Michigan State down, they've got other mechanisms to generate points. So I don't know. It's been an encouraging sign.
To put it in perspective, before I hand this off to Plum, shooting 80.6% from the line is 9th in the country free throw rate or free throw percentage. So,
unacceptable.
They're top 10 in free throw attempts per game, I believe.
But are they top one? Are they top one? Do they really want to win basketball games? Is the only question I can ask. Because as I look at it, 4 points left on the floor against FAU. Those 4 points could have made a significant difference.
Or FAU or Oakland
in our 17-point victory. No, I moved on to Florida Atlantic already, but
it's the same number in both games.
It's the same number in both games, yeah, and it could have helped us in our 19-point victory over OU. So I'm just saying, until we want to get serious with basketball, 100% consistency and number 1 in the nation, or miss me with your apologetics.
Well, we don't blow sunshine over here. We demand excellence on the Can't Read, Can't Write podcast.
I'm in favor of being a demand excellence podcast. So let's chat about the FAU game. And let's start with free throws, because free throws will portend other things. Cohen Carr, monster game. And we'll talk about what Cohen Carr did in this game.
Dunks? Did he do dunks, Michael Jones?
Big one.
Bigly dunks. Not wearing Manitankas over there.
No Manitankas on Cohen Carr. Let me say that again.
Well, did you see the column next to his free throws? Or not his free throws, but next to his free throws and next to his field goals? 1 for 1 from behind the arc.
Yep, big three. Big three.
After a big block, but Cohen Carr, I believe, in 6 games has not missed a free throw. This is someone who is shooting was shooting less than 50% from the line. Has been doing a ton of work on his shot. It looks so much better than it did last year, and I think the Carr to me is interesting. It's let's not get it twisted. I'm not saying that he's going to start shooting 3-pointers on the regular, but the work that he's
was his second attempt of the year.
The putting in the work on a shot, clearly improving at the free throw line, that will result eventually in him being someone who can potentially shoot a 3-pointer on a consistent basis, which, I mean, if he did get that this year, he's gone. He's getting drafted
for sure. Yeah, 100%.
But the more interesting thing to me about Cohen Carr, and there's been so many things to talk about, Zapala being better than expected, Jackson Kohler taking a massive step, Jace Richardson being way more ready than we anticipated a freshman. So many other things to talk about. But Cohen Carr went from a dude who just did dunks to actually a more effective slasher because his layup game has wildly improved.
Yep.
And I think that to me has been it makes him a much more complicated player to deal with. His handle got a lot better. And so you see it in a breakout game, 17 points, 8 rebounds. Again, 2 for 2 from the line, 1 for 1 from behind the arc. Mm-hmm. Great game from Carr.
Yep. Also a great game from Jeremy Fears, someone that we haven't really been talking about a great deal. But he's been generating production at the free throw line, not at the same clip as Frankie Fiedler, but he's been doing it pretty well. Facilitating in this game, 8 assists, 1 turnover. So last game, he contributes on defense in the second half. This game, he contributes on offense. And that's what good players do. They find ways to contribute when something's not working. Okay, this isn't working. Let's do something else. So have to call that out. And it's what you want to see from your sophomore point guard as like this becomes his team. Not to take anything away from Trey Holloman. Like, glad that we still have you in the program, bud. But this is going to be Jeremy Fear's team moving forward. And I love that this is a guy that is getting other people involved and is contributing meaningfully in different ways. The other thing I want to talk about is the minutes distribution in this game. So we played basically everyone but Kerr Tang and Garrick Norman that has a scholarship. Of those, the rotation, Cooper's the only dude with less than 10 points or 10 minutes. We might have to talk about Cooper at some point, but maybe today's not the day. I think what I said earlier, and I stand by this, is going to turn out to be a real benefit to the team. I think there's kind of a plateau in terms of talent on this team. A lot of guys that can contribute about the same thing. It's going to cost you on high-end talent. It's going to cost you at the end of games when you need to do to step up. I'm not sure we know who that's going to be. If it's Jaden Akins, if it's Jace Richardson,
might be matchup dependent
yet. But what it does provide for us is very capable bodies, and like this is turning into a Sweet 16 looking potential team. Very capable bodies in a pretty substantial rotation that I'm not complaining about. Years ago, we complained about Tom Izzo running 10 guys and wasting minutes and doing those things. I'm not complaining about it right now with these guys.
Yeah.
Because they can wear down other teams and we can break away at the end of the second half in a lot of these upcoming games, I think. So I'm encouraged by the production that we're getting by most of the scholarship players on this team. And I think it's going to be a big differentiator for us moving forward. And it helps you in other ways too. God forbid someone goes down with an injury. Like, what's the real drop off in production? I mean, it'll depend on the position. But
it'll depend on the position.
There's someone else most of the time.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about what you guys' thoughts are on Carson Cooper. He's not been getting a ton of minutes with Shimon Zapala, who I like to call affectionately Simon. Between him and Kohler, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on old Carson Cooper, old face guard, Coop?
He took it off this time.
Well, he had to. He's been playing like a real dillweed when he wears it. So
I said over the summer when we got Zampala that no one's going to be watching this with more interest than old Griff Aldrich, the old Griff Aldrich, the basketball coach at Longwood who had Zampala coming off the bench. I think we can say now with some degree of certainty that Tom Izzo might be a better basketball coach than old Griff Aldrich, because Zampala is contributing at a much more substantial level than we expected. And that comes at the expense of Carson Cooper's time on the floor, frankly. And there's just no other way to cut it other than that.
I mean, I do think at some point they're going to need Cooper. He can't fall by the wayside. There is enough height in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That he needs to, and he has experience against those kinds of bigs, and we've seen him be productive at times, or at least effective enough. I mean, I'm not saying that he stopped Edey. No one stopped Edey. But like, you saw a defensive performance, you were not ashamed of the effort and efficacy of what he did. So he can't go by the wayside. It is there's just been some stuff that you're like, I mean, he can't seem to hold on to the ball.
No.
That like, and the way that Kohler is playing right now, his passing game, that you almost really would think that if he could just get a little bit better with his vision, get a little bit better with his hands, you could see him picking up 6 to 8 points a game because he is more mobile than Sabala by a fair amount. I don't know. It's been disappointing because you do feel like you talk about what's his face from Longwood who had Zapala riding the bench.
Griff, our guy Griff.
Aldrich.
Yeah, Griff. But the contrast to that is that like if that's a testament to Tom Izzo being a good coach, then what's happening with Cooper? Why isn't Cooper getting better? And that's what you hope changes.
Yeah, good point.
But I do think I will say this. I think we all gotta. This is us taking some medicine. A lot of people seemingly getting big mad online about certain lineups right now.
Yep.
What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
This is a good MSU team.
Yep.
We are still in, relatively speaking, preseason. I know we've played 2 Big Ten games, but like, I don't know. Think about the conversations we were having last year. And I'm not saying I'm on board with being a demand excellence pod, but like we're seeing really good basketball.
Yeah.
And so if from time to time there's some ineffective lineups out there, like why are we all losing our shit about that in the preseason?
I will say, I think that's changing. I think that's getting better. A good example of that is the usage statistic for Jace Richardson is continuing to improve.
Yeah.
That's my metric right now.
Is how much is Jace on the floor?
Because I want to see Jace all the time. So I'm not. I didn't look at the box plus minus from TRCMB Andy H. We do appreciate his work that he does both on YouTube and with the box scores. But it seems like we've gotten away from the old like plus 50 with 2 or fewer starters, minus 100 with 5 starters as a metric. I think we're getting a hang of it a little bit more. We're understanding how these guys gel. Jace is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the offense. So,
all 10 guys. The other interesting thing to
Big Ten play. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
No. I just think having 10 guys that are all effective, you're gonna wear a lot of teams down.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that this team's depth. It's interesting we bring up the like who's going to be the guy thing, because I think even against some opponents that we might be, let's say 1 through 5 outmatched on. What about 6 through 10?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the separation we're going to be able to get in those line changes and keep it close. I don't know. I'm feeling rather optimistic about this team, even though we just played 2 games that I don't think in the grand scheme of things matter a ton. I do believe we beat the KenPom projections on both, though. So continuing to move up in the rankings from an efficiency standpoint.
Yeah, and we don't play this week. The next game is against Western next Monday night, not the Monday that you're going to get this delivered to your phone and or YouTube feed, but the following, the 30th. And then it's the Big Ten season later that week. So
what are the Broncos in KenPom right now? We might as well do it right now.
They are your KenPom 289. That is 244 on offense and 314 on defense. That is Dudu Kaka, I think, is Dudu Kaka tier here on KenPom, which is mean. I mean, these guys are trying.
It's got Dwayne Stevens there.
Yeah. So going to be another overmatched team.
Yep.
and one that we should put away.
All right, quick question then, since they're Dudu Kaka, but it's got Dwayne Stevens. Tom Izzo seems to have learned that he needs to run the score up. He's learned that is important for his net rating.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he does it against Dwayne Stevens?
No, I would take the under. I don't know what the line is on this, but I would take Western in the points. Maybe, I don't know.
Ooh, interesting. All right.
That is not gambling. We will tell you explicitly when we're giving you gambling advice, we do it sparingly and we do it with a 100% hit rate. I think
It's good. It's good.
But that was not gambling advice. I don't know what the over under is, and I don't know what the line is going to be. But yeah, I bet he doesn't. I bet you get a vintage Tom Izzo
ends up being 8-12.
Right. And Western goes on a run in the last 5 minutes of the game.
I'm gonna lose my shit
on Nick Sanders. The problem is when Kurtang gets out there, I love seeing Kurtang on the floor. Kurtang gets off the bench and he's like, I'm gonna do everything I can to scrape my way into the rotation. And he doesn't want Western to go on 10-point run.
So Izzo talked about Kurtang in the post-game press conference about how he needs to find time for him, which I'm like, truly, and I'm not saying Kurtang isn't earning it or anything like that, but Tom, you can't go 11. You can't go 11. But it did also remind me of the sort of the Sultan from Aladdin, who's like, Jasmine, the law is that you've got to marry, and it's like, who could change that is truly the Sultan or it's the hot dog guy from... Anyway, point is that if Kurtang needed to play more, Tom Izzo could make him play more. It is within Tom's control.
Yeah. Okay, Dad. Great reference there.
Yeah, all right. People know the Sultan thing. Anyway, next up,
it's like
let's talk
fifth
gymnastics.
Most memorable character from a Disney cartoon from 30 years ago. People don't know the Sultan. Truly. So
he's very problematic for a variety of reasons. Next up, gymnastics will play Michigan. Is it play? Meet? Do gymnastics with?
Have an outing?
Outing. That's it. Yep. Do an outing with.
It's going to be at the Breslin on January 17th. Just wanted to flag this. This is a huge deal for the program and would encourage anyone who's in the area to get out and support them. Again, I think we talked about this on the pod recently. I don't care for the fact that you're not allowed to boo or otherwise try and interfere with somebody who's doing a highly technical and life-threatening maneuver. But, if you bring an air horn with you, who am I to stop you? Anyway, something to think about. But big deal for the program. Very exciting. Women's basketball. We talked last week, pleaded even for someone to give us a promo code to Ballers TV, and one of you delivered. Just kidding. Did not watch these games. It was a real bummer. But Michigan State rolls the Grizz.
Grizz.
That is also a great comedy Bang Bang character. 69-38 in a game that I would love to break down for you, but I would truly be reading the box score, and then goes on to play Alabama. Plays them close for the first two quarters, and then Bama just really pulled away in the third quarter, and bit of a bummer.
Yep.
So
first loss of the season.
Yeah.
Yep.
And truly, it was neck and neck, and just in case people are interested, 9-8 first quarter, 23-22 second quarter. Then it was 31-11 third quarter. But then Michigan State 19-26 it comes up ahead. This team's got some fight. And so 11-1, 1-0 in the Big Ten. Keep your eyes on the Lady Spartans on the hardwood. If you have a Baller TV subscription. Otherwise, you can't keep your eyes on them. All right, last up. Greg.
My
send this
Google
one over to you.
News alert Google News Alert went ping, but not for the reason we're all expecting. There's already a hire. It's been how many days?
6
for the volleyball program. 6 days, and one Kristen Kelsey. Is it Kelsey or Kelsey? Chris, whatever.
It depends on how you feel about her in the moment.
Yeah. Played for MSU in the early teens, is an MSU alum, was associate head coach at Minnesota for several seasons, was a assistant coach at MSU after she graduated. So she is back. She's helming the program, and she clearly, I don't know, this came together pretty fast from the mutual separation with Aaliyah Thompson.
You need to put the air quotes in there.
Yeah, this is a pretty quick turnaround for a mutual separation situation. If I remember correctly from high school, girls that found boyfriends this quickly after they broke up. Anyway, I'm sure it's an entirely different situation.
Couple other notes on Kelsey. So has a background in recruiting at Minnesota and worked with their setters there. So they got 2 top 10 victories last year, beating number 1
Minnesota.
Texas. Yeah, number 1 Minnesota, or I'm sorry, number 1 Texas and number 7 Wisconsin. And then one of their setters was named first team All Big Ten. And then the All Volleyball AVCA, some other awards. And her 2025 recruiting class was ranked by multiple sites as a top 10 class nationally. So, hopefully can bring in some, continue to build the program up from the high school ranks and the portal to the extent that that's an option, and get this going in the right direction. So. All right, let's head off Grand River. Before we do, want to give a quick shout out to Mama's Merc, Mama's Mercantile and Eatery. You can check them out right on the Washtenaw County, Jackson County line off of I-94, exit 153, Clear Lake Road. Great food, great drinks. Truly, if you haven't done it, please go check out their Instagram, mamas.merc, because the new menu is fantastic. A lot of staples on there I like, and the cocktails look incredible. So. Great. Love the support. Thanks, gentlemen. All right. Let's head off Grand River.
Well, before we do, let's just acknowledge and name really fast with gratitude Mike Jones again for that disgusting number 35.
No.
Number 35.
Did you tell us what it was?
Yes. Killer watermelon vodka. Not sure where you were getting the maple other than the sheer syrup consistency of the Killer.
Killer is right. Killing my will to drink alcohol. So actually, thank you, Killer.
You know what it reminds me
vodka.
of? Warheads.
That's it. I knew it was something like sickly childlike, and it is
like super tart, and then it hit that's the maple sweet at the end. But Warheads were good. This
not so much.
We love a lot of what he sends us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not this.
This is the jewel. The jewel vape of vodkas. Like,
no,
not to be done, and probably the Justice Department should do something about marketing towards children with your vodkas. But anyway, moving
I won't
on.
be finishing it, and I finish almost everything. I finished the Malort.
Yeah, that's enough. Hearing about your finishing. Next up, off Grand River. So I referenced this earlier. Everything that you know and have taken for granted about college sports continues to change, and that includes years that players spend at junior colleges counting against eligibility. Now, according to a judge, time spent in a JUCO environment can no longer count against the eligibility of an individual's the lawyer, the recovering lawyer on the podcast, is giving me a little smirk and give me a little. Is there an asterisk attached to this?
Technically, this it would make sense because I think a lot of the writing has been this way, and it would make sense given everything we've experienced why you would frame it up that way. But technically, this ruling is actually
generous of you to say.
No.
I appreciate that.
The NCAA has taken sort of windfall losses that have been sweeping in nature. This technically is confined purely to Diego Pavia's case, who is Vanderbilt's quarterback, and so it only applies to him, and it's a preliminary injunction has been granted. So, for the moment, it is unique and specific to him, but it does foretell an obvious shift. And honestly, if you really think about it, why should the NCAA be able to limit the eligibility of someone who played in a different organization than their own? So, like, JUCO schools are not part of the NCAA.
Correct.
NAIA schools aren't part of the NCAA. So, I think it is a fair question why your eligibility should be limited because you spent time being an uncompensated individual in another athletic league. Particularly when in hockey they play semi-professional or they play in a bunch of other leagues before they come and actually end up in the NCAA. Like, some of these rules are bananas and don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So why, because you went to community college, should you suddenly not be able to have 4 years of eligibility in the NCAA? And more to the point now, if your value for compensation under NIL is
tied to that eligibility.
Yeah.
But this continues to take us down the path that is going to ultimately
for sure
end in eligibility as a concept ceasing to exist. One of the things, as this gets rolled out, and I think it will continue to get rolled out, it's going to mean fewer spots for high school kids to get in. It's going to mean older dudes, and it's going to mean, it's going to crowd out some high school players that would otherwise would be taking those roster spots. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess it is certainly an argument in favor of collective bargaining. In that, but as we've discussed before, I think collective bargaining it becomes really tricky as it relates to, well, you need to disabuse yourself of all academic constructs then, because you can't force a kid to go to Alabama instead of Michigan State because Alabama drafted him out of high school when he wants to pursue a packaging degree, or you know what I mean? Like, and it seems like it's probably specifically tied to football, right? I don't know. It gets weird. I'm not having fun with this anymore.
Okay. No, and we're gonna continue on this conversation when we get into the ESPN narratives around the college football playoff. But in the meantime, I've been saying on this podcast for years now that what the Ivy League did with deciding that they were going to take their ball and they were going to go play by a different set of rules, and they were just going to re-embrace the amateurism model, and they were going to have fewer practices and no athletic scholarships, and that was going to be it. Well, as always happens, they decided to get together and make me look foolish once more, because they're technically now eligible to return to the college football playoff. They are in the FCS now, or will be returning to the FCS. And it's as if they said they reevaluated this model of college athletics and said, maybe now's our time to get back in. Maybe now is the time. And I don't know. To me, this feels like an Ancient Aliens type situation of like the old gods have returned, like Princeton and its 15 national championships from 1842 are now relevant again, potentially. Like, what's going to happen when Harvard and its 70 billionaire alums and its $50 billion endowment decides,
Holy shit.
let's throw a little money around in NIL, just a little bit. Just throw around
Holy
pocket
shit.
change. They
I
could
love
have,
this. I love this, actually.
They
Like,
could
So
have
true though, 100%.
whoever they want. They're Harvard. They could have whoever they want.
I
They can't.
love this. Could you imagine the collective assgasm out of Alabama that would happen when Harvard is like, nah, it's time for you to sit down? Oh my God.
Harvard they could handle, but if it was like Princeton or heaven forbid
Colgate.
Cornell,
Yeah. Oh, is it
Colgate.
Brown.
Brown beats LSU for the number one recruit in the country.
Love this.
I
Truly.
guess they've decided now's the time to throw our hat back in the ring, or at least they're considering it. There's no other reason to make themselves to go through the motions to become eligible for the FCS that I'm aware of. So,
Well,
I mean,
or maybe they just didn't want to deprive their student athletes of the opportunity to compete for championships.
here.
Yeah.
Probably.
Either way, I love this dystopian future where we lean further into an autocracy.
Oh, that's also setting up our ESPN narrative around the college football playoff. All right.
But before we
ESPN.
do, we need to take a jaunt up to Mount Pleasant to take in the wonders of a casino I spent way too much time at in college when I had literally no money. And
Is this true? You were sneaking up to Mount Pleasant for
yeah,
when?
I wasn't sneaking.
I didn't know about this. You didn't clear this with me, Michael
that's right,
Jones.
that's right. That was Upper Michigan.
My mother. Anyway, I didn't go regularly, maybe like 4 times.
Do you want to talk about the other institutions that you went to regularly?
No. But anyway, the Amy Folan, Central Michigan University athletic director, signed a contract extension through 2029. This was a little bit surprising to me. I kind of thought since they were purging the football department that maybe Amy's time would expire. Naturally, of natural causes, of course, but that I was surprised to see this because I think I'll be surprised if they get more Michigan State football games. I don't think we're paying any checks anytime soon.
I don't think that we should have any interactions with that institution.
No, none whatsoever. And I think we've called it out here. At least I think I did. The absolute virtue signaling of the imbecile commissioner of the MAC on whatever happened after that. Was it after the Michigan Ohio State game? And this sort of like, we need to prohibit planting flags. Like, fuck you. You just you're leader of a conference, which is now extending the extension. Extending the contract. But am I even making sense? You're the president of it or whatever.
Extending the contract for
for this imbecile person who's overseeing a very corrupt program and has been completely unwilling to take any responsibility for it. Such that, as we understand, I mean, I don't think that Haller's been particularly vocal, but what he has said has not been positive or happy anyway. So,
and my understanding has still not received an apology,
which is, I think, ultimately the biggest fuck up of all. So Amy Folan can eat ass, fuck off, dum-dum, and enjoy your next 5 years, I guess, leading whatever the fuck bullshit program that is. Ha! Cool.
So, except for when we play them, go Broncos.
Yep.
Officially a fan of the Broncos now.
This is now a MSU Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan
That's 100% right.
Though I think if I'm being honest, I always preferred Western over Central.
Yeah. There's no reason to prefer Central at all. Kalamazoo's better in every way than Mount Pleasant, and
Sure.
Yep.
I'll give Western credit for being like, let's do brown as our color. No one else is doing it.
Good.
And it's not bad.
So, like, should we do crimson like every other idiot on the planet? And
Very
Western's
good.
pulling it off over there.
Well
and
done,
the name of their stadium is Waldo. Like, that's great.
It's
what
great.
a lark.
Yep.
We love that.
Yep.
Lark.
Better in every way. You know what's not been a lark? Well, first off, I have to establish this. We're going to talk about the college football playoff and the coverage of it, particularly the coverage of the Indiana Notre Dame game. So before we begin, forks down today, forks down tomorrow,
Good.
Forks down forever. I'm glad they lost by 1 trillion points, even if it means losing to Notre Dame. But this ESPN narrative of just like, oh, how many pearls can we clutch about letting some 2-bit program into our vaulted college football playoff, and to do it immediately after the game, and then to get other games to just hold up this mirror to them of like, oh, well, how's SMU Penn State? Which, by the way, a number of the participants of your little dais on game day picked SMU to beat Penn State, and then they get housed. And then Ohio State houses Tennessee.
Fully.
And I'm not seeing the same degree, maybe a little bit with SMU, but certainly not with Tennessee, of the pearl clutching of like, we can't allow all of this to happen. How could you let a team like Indiana in the college football playoff?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you guys feel about this.
Yep.
But I think this is as naked an attempt as I have ever seen.
Yep.
for a network to try to dictate to the playoff committee, we want big brands in this game. We don't particularly care about college football. We don't particularly care about fans of less prestigious teams getting to enjoy winning seasons. We want Bama in this game against Notre Dame. That's all we care about. I have never in my life heard the play-by-play commentator, and I like Sean McDonough, but at the end of that Notre Dame Indiana game, when Sean McDonough is going off on like a 5-minute rant about how big a dud this game was and how embarrassing it was that Indiana was allowed to participate in it, you could hear Bob Iger in his ear being like, you tell them right now that we want Bama, we want the bigger brands. And they just continue to push this narrative. Like Mickey Mouse himself might as well come out and be like, I just want the big boys. Well, don't waste my time with anyone else. And it's garbage.
Whenever Kevin does a voice, listener, you are the one who wins. Ultimately, you are the winner chicken dinner.
And it pissed me off, not because it's Indiana. I could care less. Like I said, forks down today, forks down tomorrow. It pisses me off because Indiana
forks down forever. Also,
don't forget.
Also forever. And they deserved a spot. As you pointed out in our group chat, Jonesy, if you expand to this many teams in the college football playoff, the most important thing is the 4 to 8 best teams are going to be in there. No one that has a real chance of winning the national championship is being left out of this group. So if you're going to punish smaller market teams or less prestigious teams or whatever, but even when you have a great season, not letting them in this tournament, you are going to further erode what matters in college football at all anymore. Like it's eroding so quickly.
Just look around. Just look the fuck around for 5 goddamn minutes and you will see that money and the love of it has ruined everything anyone has ever loved. Period. Full stop. End of fucking story. Ruined fucking Twitter. Ruined. Useless cesspool of godforsaken hell. It's ruining college football as we speak. The tournament is, I mean, whatever the college football playoff has been, it's never really been anything really worth anything. But this is, and we've talked about this forever. It's Michigan, it's the game, it's all of it. money is ruining all of it. Now it's NIL, it's recruitment, it's fuck alma mater. It's the fact that we're having to look to JUCOs now, and maybe, I mean, that's the new path. I don't know, because there's maybe less money in that. Who knows what the impact on transfer portals or recruiting kids right out of high school. I just look around in the world and generally, even, I mean, this is going to become a whole thing. I guess we're off Grand River. Maybe I'll try it. But like Amazon, look at the impact that Amazon is having on the collapse of downtowns. And we can talk about the global economy and capitalism and how lower wages and lower prices and well, no, but there's actual real meaningful effects about where you live and where you work. I mean, Jason and I drove up to Lapeer for a family holiday. We drove up M24. We passed not one, not two, but 3 closed CVS or Walgreens stores on the way. Now, that's, from Detroit to Lapeer is an hour and a half drive. To pass 3 closed pharmacies, let's be clear. Those pharmacies replaced mom and pop pharmacies 15, 20 years ago. And now they have been replaced by Amazon, such that if you need something with urgency, you better have a Prime, and you better hope that 48-hour delivery window is actually accurate, which anyone who has Prime knows is accurate. Maybe about 75% of the time you get it within 2 days, but you just got to hope it's not critical. So this idea that the things that we need, anyway, I don't want to go on a whole tangent. My point just is this love of money, this love of continually pursuing it and optimizing for it and trying to get the returns on it. There are really negative effects. And this is just one of many of them that we continue to accept. We have to stop accepting them.
I think we should go down this tangent. And I don't think it's a coincidence. And Jonesy, I know that this podcast is supposed to be a respite for our listeners from podcasts, but I don't think it's a coincidence that this is the same network that sold out one of its prime journalists this week.
There you go.
With a $15 million settlement to this new, potentially very autocratic regime in the White House, because it was the cost of doing business to continue to get access to that, the very same for the next 4 years. The very same. It's the continuation of the hollowing out of everything around us, because corporations both are people and they get to be all the benefits of people. And then they also get to be like, no, we're apolitical. We're just, we got to maximize shareholder
bankruptcy,
values.
no consequences. Yeah. Bankruptcy, no consequences anymore. Sorry.
And it's the hollowing out of everything. And it sounds ridiculous, but I look at what they're trying to do with the college football playoff is the continued hollowing out. If there are just 15 or 20 programs, which MSU is right on that edge of whether we would be in that group or not, that have any meaningful role in the future of college football, the sport will cease to exist in 2 generations, because you need the 40,000 people that we have on this campus every year to care about college football and to care about college basketball, to continue to watch the stupid ads so that we all buy Ozempic or whatever it is. And if that stops, if there's no meaningful benefit to having a really good season as just a regular college football team, then the fans should stop caring. We should stop doing this podcast. People should stop paying attention unless you're a Bama fan or you're, whatever else, Notre Dame fan. And the sport will just wither away and die, because the product is not as good as the NFL, and it never will be. And 20 programs can't sustain it in the long term. So, Jonesy, you've been very quiet through all of this. What are your thoughts? Again, forks down, of course. There's that.
Forks down every fucking day. Forks down yesterday, by the way. So I believe, someone can fact check me on this, but I believe the average margin of victory was in line with the 1v4 game for every playoff game before.
Yep.
So the beatdowns we've been seeing are consistent. It's a little unfortunate we had chalk, but if you look at the NCAA tournament, most of it is chalk. but there's enough games that you get some fun narratives, and unfortunately, we're not here. But we will strike gold on that one year, and it will be so much fun.
It's the Boise State over Oklahoma type situation, like one of the greatest bowl games of all time. And if you don't let Boise State in, or a team like Boise State, you can't have those potential outcomes.
Right, which is where I want to push back on something you said here, Greg, about that if it comes down to 15 to 20 teams, that none of this matters and we should stop doing it.
Yep.
I think you're wrong on that, and here's why. Because all of the rest of us will coalesce. Let's say Michigan State's on the outside of that.
Okay.
We'll all coalesce into another group that will, and there will be some big schools like Michigan State who are left out in the cold, who have large followings, and will generate TV revenue of a meaningful enough size because people will still watch those games. And for a while, the declared national champion will be one of these 15 to 20. But eventually, you will revert back to the years when Michigan and Michigan State were collecting national championships alongside other schools who collected national championships in the same year. And
time is a flat circle.
And there will be debates about, well, Michigan State was the better team, but they didn't play Alabama because they weren't in the Super League or where the fuck it is. But there will be that debate that will happen again someday. And so I do think I do think that's slightly wrong, depending on how it all shakes out. If you capture a large enough sample into this new world, then that probably doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if it becomes too elitist, because you can't say that Alabama and Michigan and Ohio State will always have the best team for all of time, and that there's no one who could ever be worthy of being in the same atmosphere of them. Like, you just can't say that. Right. And so I think it will persist, and honestly, part of me wonders if I would rather weirdly be on the outside. If there were enough good teams on the outside, not great, but good teams. And the only other thing I'll say about all of this, and this, because it wasn't just McDonough, Herb Street has been, I guess, deep-throating every 9-3 SEC team that exists, and it's odd behavior, ignoring that Tennessee got housed too.
Yeah, I mean, the only explanation that I have for it is that ESPN needs to prop up the SEC,
sure,
because they're so over-leverage invested in the SEC.
And they got Saban tweeting about it, Lane Kiffin's tweeting it. But here's the other thing, and I'm going to steal this because I've said it before. I listen to the only podcast, John and Austin. I like their pod. But one of the things that they've talked about all the time is that in college football, there's usually like one, maybe two teams that are actually good. Almost everyone in college football is bad. Like, almost everyone is bad. And so
we made that point several times. You can win a lot of games just minimizing your mistakes and accepting the mistakes of your opponent.
So truly, like, there is usually one or two teams that are good, like actually good at football. And so I think for that reason, why would you, like, Indiana didn't make their fucking schedule.
Yeah.
Like, and by the way, you know whose Indiana's schedule was fucked by? Conference realignment.
Very good.
Like, they don't end up with this cakewalk if that doesn't happen.
Right.
And so, because you know who they would have had to play? They would have had to play Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, like we all did every year. And so, they didn't pick their schedule. But Kirk Cignetti deserved recognition. That team deserved recognition for what they accomplished. 11-1 in the Big Ten deserves to go. You've earned that spot.
Yep, exactly.
And if you recognize earning it, the best 4 to 8 teams will be in there. And by the way, probably only one of them is actually any good.
And the narrative should have been, let's all delight in Indiana losing and getting humiliated. That's what the narrative. I could have been on board with that. I could have been an ESPN lifer because
let's dunk on Kirk Cignetti and all of his shit talking. But no.
Yeah, let's Google what his record is in the college football playoff. Google Kirk Cignetti college football playoff record.
Make sure you're sitting down.
This idea that we've got to let other mid teams in because of who they are is so nakedly driven by the idea, and I'm not even sure that it plays out, the idea that if it were Bama, 15 million more mouth breathers would have watched that game. I'm not 100% convinced that they would have. But it just bothered me. The concept bothered me. And then their lack of willingness to acknowledge that Tennessee also gets blown out by Ohio State. It's such a stupid argument.
We have an opportunity in front of us. Boise State is going to play a James Franklin-led team. Like, there is a real chance that Penn State loses that game, and Boise State doing what it does will hopefully shut some of this down.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that also means that by Boise State doing that, like, we need an America's darling. I think that's the TV execs, not that I'm remotely in their corner, because they are bad for the things that we love and cherish here. But
like our institutions, for example,
they're bad for college sports in the way that health insurance is bad for healthcare. But the Boise State beating Penn State, if we can get a Cinderella story sort of narrative, and it's going to take ESPN carrying some water here, which is unfortunate. But that if that happens, hopefully that drives eyeballs to the next round, which I think will be a net positive. So anyway, good ad, Greg, to the outline. Should we move on to some quick previews? We did Western. I see you've got hockey on here. Is that also
both basketball and hockey are playing Western with an asterisk? Both MSU and Western need to win its games in the GLI for that to happen. I was starting to find out how we could all watch this game because last year it was on WILX. It's not clear. In fact, I've seen no indication that it'll happen again, but just get out to Van Andel, go support the team. Those are my previews.
Great. Love it. Let's head to Twitter questions.
Yeah.
So Mike Jones, first up, didn't ask a question, but he did ask me to question my reality by drinking this god-awful watermelon vodka. Again, if you see something labeled number 35 on the shelf, don't drink it, but whatever, it's killer watermelon? Is it? Killer,
you guys.
Killer. Yeah, don't do that. Anyway, so love you, Mike Jones, but also die. Next up, Lobster Puncher. What is the one Christmas present Spartan fans should want this year? And what shit sandwich are we going to unwrap underneath the tree instead? Alex Plum.
Oh, this is a good question and not an unfair one. Oh, God. The Christmas present we should want this year is a 100% free throw shooting. And the shit sandwich we're going to unwrap under the tree is 85% free throw shooting.
It's 9th in the country.
Is that good?
Yeah, it was excellent. Next up, Joe Mondelli asks...
Mondelli! My guy!
Joe, I always enjoy seeing your profile picture pop up. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Greg, do we owe Izzo an apology for transfer portal picks? He seems to get exactly the type of guy that fit our culture and is paying off so far.
I think we could get a little bit more out of Frankie Fiddler. Personally, we were promised a 3-point shooter, and we've been kind of dancing around this because it's been steadily improving, but it's not great, this team's 3-point percentage. So would like that.
Hold on. Because I do think over the last 6 games, it's been over 40% every game.
Check that, please. Let's see a little check on that. But yeah, I think maybe we do need to take a chill pill. These transfer situations do seem to be working out a little better than expected. And I think we should all acknowledge that. We should all be big enough and comfortable and secure in ourselves enough to acknowledge that right now it looks okay, but we could be singing a different tune, right, Alex Plum? Come conference season, maybe it's not so cheery then.
Well, we got to take what we can get.
Next up from John McWhat. The vibes are definitely better with basketball than this point a year ago, but if you look ahead to March, do you think their ceiling is meaningfully better, Mike Jones?
I was doing math, and I'm sorry, it's over 35%. You'll take that, though, right?
I'll take it above 25% for sure.
Yeah, I think I kind of said this earlier today that if you looked at this team, if you looked at Michigan State a year ago, we would have been feeling very different. Even some of these wins, I think, if we had wins like we had right now, we would have been relieved last year. And so yes, if the question is about vibes, last year if we got a 17-point victory, we would have been relieved. Now I think we're transitioning to the point where we're like, as a podcast anyway, I think we're starting to feel like we trust some things about this team. And that's going to move into a bit of a hypercritical instead of. I think we've been kind of celebratory for a little bit about this team, particularly since back half of Maui. And I do think it's a bit time to. My vibes are I'm expecting things out of this team.
I don't think we have to worry about this.
You mentioned Sweet 16, and I don't. This team genuinely, I expect that. So that means the things that we need to be drilling in on are the things that are. What about a Final Four?
Sure. I think right now I expect this team to be solidly in the tournament, not sweating it at all on Selection Sunday, the way that we have been for the last several years. And that's a vibe that I'm ready for. So next up from Beth, I'll send this to Plum. From Beth Amaro, if you could pull any Secret Santa name from Izzo's current roster, whose name are you pulling and what are you getting him? This is a fun question.
I'm wrestling with whether to be serious or not. I'm going to choose not. And I'm going to get, I don't actually honestly know. Oh, I guess it would be Jaden Akins and a therapist, a sports therapist, to work through whatever blockage he has so that we can just keep him where he is. Whatever this is, solidly 10 to 13 points a game with no hullabaloo. Honestly, consistently, we will win a national championship if Jaden Akins can deliver that much every single game from here on out. I believe that.
I mean, it does make him someone you cannot sleep on.
Or with. All right, next up, Thomas Sambiasi, Kevin Greck. What happened to BTN's basketball coverage? They used to know ball, but that doesn't seem the case anymore.
Was Dan Dakich with BTN? Is Thomas missing Dan Dakich? No, he was on ESPN, wasn't he?
Thomas, I think there's actually an easy explanation for this.
Oh, we kind of liked having Robbie Hummel around for a few years, and
I just assumed that it's because we expanded into the Pac-12, and so we acquired a bunch of their B-League talent, and that's what we're dealing with right now. It's just
could be. Yeah, I will agree that this current crop of analysts is maybe not as strong as what we've seen in the past. But I am a little bit surprised to see this question at the same time because I didn't think the drop off was that significant. Next up from Thomas to Jonesy, will the new arena still be built with Leah Johnson leaving the volleyball job?
yes. And here's why. Your boy Kevin G, not the Grooch, but Kevin G.
The other Kevin G.
You try saying it. Yeah.
He strikes me as a gentleman who likes shiny things and ribbon cutting ceremonies. He's a real George Bluth of sorts, and
solid as a rock.
Yeah. So that Kevin G is going to build that building so that he can point to a thing and said, "I did that." Because that's who he is.
That's good or that's bad. We will see.
Next and we'll leave to your evaluation as to a man's character when he needs to build something. Call him an Ozymandias of sorts. But yes, next up is... also, Thomas says, hope you all have a great holiday. Thanks, Thomas. You too.
Love you, buddy.
Next up is Aaron Berger RKT, who asks, are you going to the Frozen Confines? We will be in the American Airlines Club. This feels like a flex, and for those who don't know, the Frozen Confines is the games that are played at Wrigley Field in ice hockey. So
I will not be, as much as I'd like to go see that game against Wisconsin.
One won't be because he Delta only.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine ever going into anything called the American Airlines Club. I have to imagine that it's dirty and there's overworked, unhappy attendants just not serving you food, but sort of bumping into you as you try.
Philly is an American hub, and that it fits us in a variety of ways.
100%. I mean, not that Detroit is known for its cleanliness or style in any way, but Delta is just, I mean, my God.
Note that DTW is not in Detroit.
Hear to that. Also, people love McNamara. No one should be sleeping on the McNamara terminal, but they gotta fly Delta to see it.
I think McNamara, they solved the airport terminal. Truly,
100%.
Why not just have them all like that? It's very well done.
No stupid turns. No tentacles. Just one long fucking hallway and a train to get where you need to get.
A nice, big ceiling, plenty of space. You're never too cramped.
The giant
lots of light
TVs showing CNN, so you can
not those weird cubbies either. Like each terminal's a weird,
and it's low ceilings. God, nothing is more discomforting than a low ceiling in an airport terminal.
There is something about us as humans. We like to have space above us, please. For all the drones to come in and UFOs and all that stuff.
Next up, Jess Sipperly for Mike Jones. Made it to the Brez on Saturday and saw Cohen Carr do insanely athletic things live. Is there a better combo than a block on one end and hitting a corner three plus a Tom Izzo hug?
No, that is the best combo. If I could order that at McDonald's, I would order it at McDonald's. Great combo. Love that. Though I will say we didn't talk about. Did you see the highlight of Trey Holloman breaking that gentleman's tush? Crossed a guy over and he fell back 8 steps and then fell right on his ass. And then Trey calmly takes a step back for 3.
Oh, did he point at him like Jordan Poole did and then not attempt the 3? Did you guys see that?
Can we just, as an aside, agree that Jordan Poole is the biggest douchebag?
Deserved to get punched. I think we can all agree on that.
Deserved to get punched. Fully agreed.
Should have been punched 2 times, actually. 2 times.
All right.
Next up on the Key Ski, I'll send this to Plum. What's the best Christmas present you've ever received? I can answer this in the meantime. Longtime listeners to the pod will remember Vest. Vest is the greatest Christmas present anyone
like your
could ever
RSUs?
receive. No, my mom got me a vest several years ago for Christmas after asking me if I wanted a vest and me saying, no, thank you on vest. And then her being like, maybe we'll just get you vest anyway. So I got vest that year. It's in this closet right over here with the tags still
on it.
I'm sorry, you said best Christmas present. I'm sorry.
Not vest Christmas
I
present.
heard vest Christmas.
Yep. That was too bad for you, you dumb freaking guy. I will say when I was a kid, right around the time that, of course, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, best sequel ever, by the way, came out. Don't
You
piss
like the president?
around. I'm going to listen. A broken clock is right twice a day. Donald Trump, Chris Columbus chose correctly.
Now we're a Chris Columbus supporter? Ooh, interesting. Wow.
Listen,
I knew that you hated First Nations people.
Come for Chris Columbus. He is a master director. He's a master director, and I'm not going to hear anything else. Not a great
founder of the
not a great civilizer, not a great colonizing
they need to be
civilizer.
civilized. Oh, listen, interesting.
You're not going to up me on this, okay? No, not with the number of LGBTQ slurs I have to deal with on a weekly basis. I'm not the one.
You're not going to outdo him on this, Jonesy. He did do the Peace Corps, he's been a civilizer himself. He kind of knows
civilizer. It's good. Anyway, the answer was I got one of those talk boys, and that was a great present and one that outlasted it. In fact, it doesn't exist anymore, but I had that through high school. My old cassette talk boy. So good gift.
I don't know what this is. This is a Swartz Creek situation.
No. Didn't you not watch Home Alone 2, Lost in New York? He has the little talk boy that he talks into. It has like a little mouthpiece. And he records the voices, and then it plays it back, and then that's how he distorts the voices. Hello, Mr. McAllister. Yes, I'd like room service, please.
And you use that to blame other kids in the neighborhood for your transgressions.
This is
your crimes.
Well, listen, I'm not going to answer that directly. What I will say is I'm more surprised. I would have thought this was something we share. This is a generational thing. Like we were kids watching that movie going, this would be a cool piece of technology in 1994 that didn't exist otherwise.
I was actually just telling the Forkin alumna in the house that I share.
It's good.
This house with that I've actually never really seen Home Alone 2. I watched it in my youth at a friend's house while we were doing other things, but other than that, no.
Okay. Well, I hate you both, and I'm so disappointed. And
we've taken contribute to this
so many minutes. Also, I love that movie. I watch the Home Alones every Christmas, so I'm bothered and annoyed. Next up. Thank you, Keith Ski. Great question. Next up for Michael Jones. Do you go complicated Christmas or simple Christmas?
I don't know what this means.
Complicated. He goes complicated. All right. Next
what does that mean?
From Beppe Plum. If you have to ask, that's the answer. 100%.
Isn't it actually maybe that I do simple Christmas?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
No,
on this podcast, we do simple most everything.
Yeah, including answers to questions. Beppe Plum up next for Kevin Greck. I was blocked by Jesus.
Yep. I meant to ask you guys if we were going to include this one.
Well, you wanted to give it to me too, and you didn't even. I took it, so this is good. Well, I'm going to lean into it. Beppe's established themselves as an ally on this pod. I think enough that I'm going to give it to them. Beppe Plum says, "I was blocked by Nathan Heave." I can't read it. So, is that a cock block? Cox block? I don't know what to call it, but roosters are called cocks because they have peckers on their face, I think. Tom Green said so. Now you know, maybe. That's good. Honestly, that's good. And the reason it's good is this. Because, this is apropos of nothing. Other than I read earlier today, Joe Manchin completely unloading on Democrats and blaming progressive Democrats as the reason why the Democratic Party is toxic and broken. And I just feel like, Beppe, your question/statement this week is exactly what Joe's going for. So this makes me happy.
This is Joe. I won't vote for Biden nominees mansion.
Correct.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Next up, Beppe Plum, rant of the week. Look, I'm surely not the only person with dyslexia. Cath lab. They should never put a sign that close to a meth lab in a hospital. I may live in Tennessee, but I'm not the clown for that room. Thank you. Well, not yet. Hashtag goals.
Okay. To be fair, he didn't say put a sign that close to a meth lab in a hospital, as it were. No hospitals have meth labs in the Portalpolooza area.
Maybe in Tennessee.
No, maybe in Tennessee.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I see. That close to meth lab in a hospital.
Right.
But okay. Maybe he's telling on himself about in Tennessee that would even be a question.
Yeah, that one might reasonably assume that
very
there
good.
is a
Okay,
meth
all right,
lab
yeah,
in the
good.
hospital.
Anyway,
Right,
bonus Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. I love you guys, and I hope you have the best week ever.
And see, that's it. Another Home Alone reference, you fucking idiot.
That one I get. That one I
because it's from
understand.
number one.
Listen,
Yes.
Did you know there's 7?
Hashtag
Did you know
Chris
there's
Columbus.
7?
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely. I will not, and I will not, but I will go to Mamopoly, and I'm sure this rambling question of a sentence paragraph will have us all.
We need to establish this. Are you like a Kevin McAllister truther? Like there are no other Home Alones but the first two? Is that
the first two? And because I saw the third as a child, a young person when it came out, and I was angry. If I could have left the theater under my own power, I would have.
Oh God!
Did your parents restrain you?
Yeah, you saw it at a theater. Like this is
a movie theater.
Home Alone 3 was prime VHS tape fodder. Like,
okay, well maybe we did. I remember watching it.
You shouldn't have seen it at a theater.
Because it was filmed in the same neighborhood as Uncle Buck, and I shouldn't know that, but I do. And so, what can I say? That's that. Let me just make that point. That's the one thing that stands out about Home Alone 3 that I recall is that it was filmed in the same neighborhood.
You saw
Uncle
all of
Buck.
those establishing shot houses, and you were like, one of those you can pay a rat to eat that thing off your face.
We just watched it the other night. Another classic.
That line in that movie, all-time great.
All-time favorite. And the people we were with hadn't seen it before. And I'm like, of course, quoting the movie to them. And they were like, this is horrible. Why would they say that to her? And I was like, oh, you missed it. She's a real bitch.
Oh, we don't like her. It's established. We don't like her. You can be mean to her. Next up, from Mamopoly, what say you on decorating for the season? MSU extension educator Bill Lumberg says mulching is the most ecological way to dispose of a live Christmas tree, and the American Christmas Tree Association says use of an artificial tree for at least 5 years is the same overall environmental impact compared with a fresh tree.
Hold on.
Believe it or not, I've done research on this.
Listen, first, the citation of American Xmas Tree Assoc is as about as ass backward as you can get. We should not be ever quoting from trade associations whose only existence is to justify through the use of cash and money equivalents on the propagation of the capitalistic hegemony that has our world in a foil. Okay, I'm going to stop. But I hate this question, and I don't know why you got to environmental impact from what could have just been, what do you think about decorating for the season? That's all you needed, Susan.
How does one mulch their own Christmas tree?
Michael would know.
Seems like a lot of work.
Do you use the lawnmower? Do you run run it over the lawnmower 9 or 10 times?
Truly, Susanna, does this involve all of us owning a stump grinder or some equivalent? Because, and then I would ask you, what is the carbon emission of us all owning one of those things?
Right.
But I don't know who MSU extension educator Bill Lumberg is, but I challenge the premise of what he's saying.
I guess my question is when you put all of your stuff in the brown paper bags, your like leaves or your weeds or whatever, does that go somewhere other than the landfill?
It's supposed to.
Great. Then you know what? I assume that when they come to pick up your tree, it also goes somewhere other than the landfill.
You shouldn't ever be doing that. You keep the tree behind the garage. Okay.
Yeah.
It dries itself out fully. You can't use a tree. Listen, listener, if you don't know this, you cannot use a tree in your fireplace, even if you cut it down, because the sap inside those the needles is so thick that it will congeal inside the fireplace. It is a fire hazard and it can clog that fucking flue up. So you don't want that. But keep it outside because it is great burning as soon as you get a nice, crisp, warm enough spring day to have your first bonfire outside. You take a few branches off that and you've got all the kindling you need for the whole fucking season. We do it every year.
And again, great for the environment. Just release that carbon straight up.
Give it right back. Okay, the tree took it. Give it back.
Yeah. It's
socialism. You're just spreading it to the other trees.
100%.
Right,
but anyway,
let's see what Mama Believe has on the second one. Guys, do you feel that this following statement about the coach is a fair estimation of that coach's ability? Quote, the Chargers got 3 unexpected points right at the end of the half in their 34-27 victory. It's a good thing their coach understands the depths of the NFL rulebook. Who cares?
I know.
It was actually the Chargers got this like weird punt free. There was like a
Jim Harbaugh
interference. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh knows a weird esoteric rule, and they got a field goal out of it.
We can all wink and nod and say it is unsurprising that Jim Harbaugh knew a weird rule because he makes up for his lack of ability to socially interact with human beings with weird knowledge.
Good for you. 100% correct. Fuck that guy. All the way.
Next up, Mr. Neurotic Pants. And last up, how many Nepo baby walk-ons has MSU basketball had that you can remember? I can always spot them because they're 5 feet tall and built like 14-year-olds.
Izzo definitely has had at least one on his roster for like the last 16 years.
The last ever. Yeah. 100%.
And we got schooled with a list of them, and because we didn't come close to having all of them.
Who corrected us with the list?
I believe it's our dear friend Joe Ashworth. I feel like, Joe, you and I got in a spat and you've gone a missing. Come back to us, Joe.
Come back, Joe. Listen, we all get in spats with Mike Jones. He's not to be taken seriously.
I'm insufferable.
If you get in a spat with Mike Jones, like you're a bigger part of the podcast than ever before.
Frankly, you might get listener guest status soon enough.
Yeah, we'd gladly replace him with you. Next up from Mr. Ron.
Going back to that well, you normally bring new bits.
Jonesy, this one's to you if you're done over there. Jonesy, if you had to either wear clearly shit-stained jeans or red MAGA hat, which would it be?
Shit-stained is great because it's not on the front. It's got to be on the back. It's got to be an ass shit stain.
So there's a question of, do I have a Larry David opportunity here? Wherein I just want to be left alone.
All right.
But that's probably the jeans.
And Ted Nugent, speaking of MAGA, taught me that you can draft dodge doing this as well. So if there's ever, you're ever concerned about potentially getting drafted, he tells the story and he's proud of it. This is Fly Your American Flag, America guy, that he draft dodged by showing up wearing excrement caked like clothes, and they were like, no thank you, we don't need you, we appreciate you. And he'll tell this story like, aren't I a genius? This is the same guy that supports our troops.
And he does realize that just because he got out, that someone else did have to go instead.
And probably died because of him.
So
I bet he's never had that thought for a moment. No.
I bet you the other person that is a draft dodger that we know about has also never had that thought. Mm-hmm. Weird that we started at one point in time with a little sprinkle of, I know this isn't political, and then we've gone.
Well, it was twice
many
today.
a times.
3 or 4 times today. It's just, it's easy fodder. Last up, from Mr. Nepo Baby himself, Raymond Chains, Michael. Nope. Kevin.
Yes.
Any of us. Have any of you made it onto a Blue Sky blacklist yet? Actually, that's a good question. It's a great way to learn things about yourself that you never knew. For example, I found out that I'm a right-wing Bitcoin bro who supports bloodshed. Really, only 2 out of 3 of those things are true. That's good, though.
I guess I can't be that surprised that
I don't think I've been
Blue
blocked
Sky is in its purity test era.
100%.
Because I can trust my friends on the left to eat their own, especially the right-wing Bitcoin bros in support of bloodshed. Jonesy, are we on any block lists over there on the Blue Sky?
I don't know. I don't care. Like, truly, I am unbothered when we get blocked by people. Our best block, least surprising block, Chris Solari.
Yeah.
So I do. The one upgrade that Elon has made is now that I've been blocked, I can at least still see all of Solari's tweets, because despite him being sensitive as hell, I enjoy your journalism, Chris. Don't be a bitch. Like this.
It's great.
I'm sorry you made a shitty tweet about Steven Izzo, and I made fun of you for having an auto reply to every time someone called you out for a shitty tweet. I didn't even mention you. Yeah, but your journalism's great. Yeah. And then I think we're blocked by half of Spartans Illustrated because I made fun of David Harns for fluffing U of M in the wake of the shooting. He was. Remember, they had Michigan State at Chrysler.
Oh, they did the whole thing to support,
like, love you, little bro, or whatever, and I was like,
no, fuck off.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Anyway, so those are our 2 best blocks. But
good. Take
whatever. Not aware on the Blue Sky. Anyway, gentlemen, it was a fun week. We have a slow week in front of us, but happy holidays. I'll see you next Sunday. And go green.
Merry Christmas. May it be a go white Christmas.
Is that from your